All right, well, please welcome Caroline Hales.
Hi, my name is Caroline Hales. I am a student at the University of Southern California, Thornton Music School. The first piece that I'll be playing today is the first movement of the Tournée Sonatine. And I really hope that this string stays the tune for us tonight.
That was beautiful. Thank you, Caroline. So before we get started on the music, I neglected to do this last time, and I lost a whole night's sleep over it. I forgot to thank two very important people here. If anybody can't hear me, raise your hand, because we can juice me up, but I usually can project pretty well. Are we okay? Can you all hear? All right. So I wanted very much to thank Dorothy Roberts, who is the patroness of the Harp program here. It's because of Dorothy that we really have this wonderful Harp program, and I just wanted to take a minute to thank you for your generosity. And I also want to thank Robin Schutte, who is Caroline's compeer, and she does such a wonderful job of taking care of this year and last year of the harpists, and I'm so grateful because she's so sweet about taking care of Caroline, and they have a nice little friendship, I think, at this point. Yes. Thank you. So just by happenstance, the two pieces that you're going to hear today, when we didn't plan this, have a really interesting correlation together. And the first piece that you just heard was the first movement of sonatina, actually, by Marcel Tournier. And Mr. Tournier was a very prolific composer for the harp and was very instrumental in pushing the harp into the 20th century just because of the volume of his works and the variety of his works. He was very prolific, and he wrote many pieces, very wide variety of things. He wrote a series of what he called images. There were 4 books of images, for example, and there were 3 in each book. There were 12 pieces, and each one was very descriptive. There was one about Lolita the dancer. There was one about the gray donkeys on their way to El Azib, and he would hear the whip cracking, and then he wrote a piece called Jazz Band, which was very evocative, kind of Gershwini and all, and many teaching pieces, many concert pieces, and very important figure. He studied directly with Alphonse Hasselmann, who was kind of the patriarch of the modern harp world. And Tournier studied with him, Regnier studied with Hasselmann's, Grangenet studied with Hasselmann's, and as did Salzedo. So everybody sort of stemmed from there and went in their own directions. Tournier took over for Hasselmann's at the Paris Conservatory in 1912. I read something very interesting. I'd actually read this before, but forgotten it, that Regnier was, as a student of Hasselmann's, was first expected. Hasselmann's wanted Regnier to have this job, but she was a woman, and she was also devoutly religious. And because it was a government job, she was passed over. And when Hasselmann's found out, he died that night. That's how disappointed he was. Then Tournier kept that job till like 1948, till after the war. And then, of course, they offered it to Regnier, and she laughed and she said, "I'm 10 years older than Tournier. Why would I take this job now?" So she never had the job at the Paris Conservatory. The other interesting thing is that Tournier was married to a harpist, but she was a chromatic harp player. So any of you that were here last week and we talked about the difference between the pedal harp and the chromatic harp, we had the two of them together married, and one being a pedal harpist and one being a chromatic harpist. So I thought that was really interesting. So Tournier when he wrote this piece, this sonatine, it was sort of midway in his career, 1924, so about halfway through his tenure there at the Paris Conservatory. And I don't know if he did it on purpose, probably, but I lost his phone number. I couldn't talk to him. But this piece that he wrote, this sonatine, is very much, I'm going to say, patterned after, whether or not he did it on purpose, the Ravel sonatine that you're going to hear as a trio as the next piece. Now, the Ravel sonatine was written for piano, and this is what you're going to hear as a transcription for flute, viola, and harp. But it was a piano sonata, sonatina, and the Tournier then wrote this also sonatina, 3-movement work, and it's uncanny how similar they are in structure. I was thinking it would be interesting to show you just, we're going to jump 1 second forward and I'll show you what the beginning of the Ravel sonatine, the harp part, which it's not really a harp, I mean, it's a transcription of a harp part, but it gives you the idea of the motion. First, before you do that, play just what you did here. Yeah, just the fast notes. And perfect. And then Ravel's. Good, perfect. Yeah. So I was going to say, probably when you heard this Tournier sonatine, you thought, that sounds sort of familiar to me, maybe, because the Ravel sonatine is actually such a popular piano piece, done so frequently. And, but we'll talk a little bit more about the sonatine when the trio plays, because there's very interesting things about it and very interesting things about the transcription. But in the meantime, let's just do a little bit of work with this. I marked just a few things. I want to take a moment to compliment Caroline, because she learned this piece since the last Masterclass. She learned it and memorized it. She played it almost 100% flawlessly. She made one tiny little mistake that she covered up so beautifully that I'm sure no one even heard that. And cover-up is 99% of the battle, I have to tell you. We all make mistakes, and it's pretty easy to make a mistake on the harp, but the sneak, you can just make sure that your audience doesn't know you're a winner. There's just no doubt about it. Okay, so let us do couple of little teeny things here. One of them is going to be I felt at the first transition to the slower section. The dynamics are marked fortissimo and then forte. It's a 4-bar transition. And then it says diminuendo. And I feel like we could hold the diminuendo a little longer. It felt to me like you kind of dropped down really fast. So let's just do those 4 bars. Is
that too quiet?
I think maybe. And I also think that this one, first of all, a couple of things. I think when you start here, that I want to hear more of that note. Because this, right, I really want to feel like that's an arrival point. Let's just do right on that and go to the transition. And, 2, and. Start your retard a little bit sooner. Good, okay. Now that needs to feel warm, but not forte. Much nicer. That's much nicer. Now let's back up a little bit. So the important thing is going to be how loud do you start and how much do you come down before you get to that thing that we just played. So let's play this one. Let's see if we can take it out of context and just play the second one. Good. Now let's say that once you reach after the crossover here, that you already start to feel slower. Okay, the retard should start a little sooner. I think that's a better grading. I like that better. Now let's go from there, okay? Warmer and not so hard on that first chord. Good. Now go to that chord. If you need time to get to that chord, take the time. Okay. You don't want to throw it away. It's a very important chord. So let's do that one more. Good. Now, I don't mean roll the chord more. I just mean wait till you're ready to play it before you start. Good. So I'm not hearing enough bottom. And I like that 10th. Good. Now, not quite so loud. That feels forte. I loved that. No, that was beautiful. Okay, now let's go from there. You know, a case could be made that this diminuendo is actually just to mezzo forte.
Right.
You know, I think it's a worthy case. I really do. So it's marked 2 bars of fortissimo, then a bar of forte, then there's a diminuendo over 2 bars, and then our next dynamic is mezzo forte. So, you know, I mean, there's no rule about it, but it would be an interesting experiment to just see if we made that transition with it feeling just exactly like that. That's too loud. But other than that, yeah, that's nice. Sit on that chord. One more time. Perfect. I love that. I love that. You know, a lot of ways to skin the proverbial cat, but I think that's a very organic way to try that. Worked very nicely. Okay, next spot, and we did actually talk about this one other time. There's a dynamic marking it's a 2-bar, again, a 2-bar thing, and it says lentement, which means slowly, and then you play a chord that says piano, and then you play an echo, which is pianissimo, and then the next bar says più forte, but you see, we Americans see forte and we play loud, but più forte means a little louder. It doesn't mean loud, it just means a little louder. So yes, we kind of, you know, see things in black and white. So let's see if we can make that one. And then soft again. I think that's lovely. I think that's much more subtle. Okay, excellent. On that, now we have another transition to talk about here, right here.
Yeah.
It's awkward, it really is. So I think we should just play it a few times and experiment a little bit. What's happening here is that we're going into a different section, but it transitions from 16th note motion to a triplet motion. And the instruction that we get is little by little hurrying, okay? So it's... We'll see, but it felt abrupt to me.
Yeah.
So let's see if we can find a way. Yeah, that'd be great. I'm going to interrupt for 1 second. I want to hear more. Yeah, more of that, the beat note. Yeah. Okay. I think I know what the problem is. I think that this one you're emphasizing this one a little bit too much, and so it's causing a stop. Yeah, it should feel more smoother. And you know, that came from the fact that I was nagging you about making sure the beat was there. Yeah. It's too much now. Okay. It's my fault. It's always my fault. All right. I have very broad shoulders. I take complete responsibility. Right. And don't be late getting there. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. Try it again. That was great. Then don't be too fast in the triplet. D, da, 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 D. Make sure it feels like a triplet. D, da, 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 D, da, da, da. Good. And now this one too, I would be very deliberate. D, da, to the chord. Okay. Do that. Good. All right, let's do that whole thing. That was lovely. Loved that pacing there at the end. Beautiful job. Lovely. Okay. Now, let's see. Oh, right here, I feel like this section can be more misterioso. Okay? That was kind of the word that popped into my head when I was listening to it. So let's see how valid that is. Let's go from here. We'll go back up and we'll go through it a sec, okay? Yeah. If that's an okay spot? Yeah. I liked that, and I liked the time that you took there, but you know what I'm missing is a little more clarity in the left hand, so that it actually doesn't become like that. It needs to have the little bit of ictus there so that it projects and it has that color. So we have to always be careful on the harp that we're thinking about projection, we're thinking about the last row out there, because the harp doesn't naturally necessarily project on its own. We have to constantly be thinking about projection.
Should I lower it a little?
Good idea.
Okay.
Excellent. A+.
Hooray.
Yes. Great? That's great. That was beautiful. Now, she asked me if she should lower it. So what does that exactly mean? Well, on the harp, think of it like a tennis racket. You're always looking for the sweet spot on a tennis racket, and you can always hear it when you hit the ball and it hits the sweet spot. You actually hear the resonance. The harp the strings are attached here and here. So the most resonance, the most freedom of the sound is going to be midway. But we don't always want that freedom because some of the bigness of the sound, the wah-wah of the sound. So if we drop closer to the sounding board, there's actually a special effect that's called près de la table, which means closer to the sounding board, and it actually is a special effect. But if we use that for clarity, because it doesn't ring quite as much, so because it doesn't ring, it'll cut through a little bit better. And that's what she did. She did it without me telling her. She's so smart. And and you could tell, it immediately projected better, so that was lovely. So good job on that. Okay, now, when we get to the end of this section, I feel like we can take a little bit of a lift, okay? Yeah, so do you want to just go through the whole, what you just did, and then we'll get to here and see?
I can do this.
Okay, all right, yeah, that's a good idea. Good, do it from there. Good. Now, before you do this, let's talk about this section a little bit. So when we start here, our dynamic is piano, and then we have 2 bars of piano. Then we have these little we have a little up and down, right? We have a crescendo, diminuendo. So let's save that. Let's make sure that happens, and then we do the little up and down, because after that, then we go in a continuous crescendo, all right? So we want to have those 2 colors. First of all, we don't want to give away too much dynamic yet. The other thing is, notice that the octaves on the downbeat they want to ring through. They're supposed to ring through. They have a laissez-vibrer mark. Right. So you really want to hear that the B, then the A, then the B, then the G sharp, and the F sharp, and the D sharp. You really want to hear that each time. So really let those resonate. So really draw them, okay? Draw them out. Now crescendo and down. So you got to come back down. Got to come right back down. You don't have much time. When you get back to the F sharp, you're back to piano.
I was waiting until here to do that, to go up. That was my problem.
Yeah, let's come back down and restart there. Soft. Now start to grow. Okay, so that's where I want to lift.
A lift.
Yeah, you actually have a whole 30-second note rest there.
You're right. Okay, I will lift.
Yeah, let's do that. Now, the other thing is, and this is something that we all do, poco a poco crescendo, so she's getting faster. Crescendo means get louder. Crescendo doesn't mean get faster. And it's just so natural for people when you start to get louder and you get more adrenaline going. So let's not do that. Yeah. Let's really most of the time that takes away the intensity of it. The intensity is built sometimes more by holding back and letting the crescendo create the intensity rather than to have it move forward and sound frantic in any sort of way. So,
it's right here or here.
I'd like to do this whole thing one more time. Now soft. That's the soft one. I'm still not getting that soft one. Yeah, so you know what it is? Once you hit the top here, you should come down. That poco poco crescendo, we're moving so that it doesn't start till there. So make that feel like it leads down, okay? Yeah, I think even right there is already too loud. That's the loudest point, okay? Do it from here.
So start, oh,
yeah.
I'm doing it wrong.
There's no wrong in music. Now, no hurrying. Intense. Great. Okay, good. Excellent. Do it without me shouting. Resonant. That's great. Okay, that was beautiful, Caroline. Lovely, really nice. So the most important thing in all of that is that crescendo. There's several important things. I think those bottom notes ringing out are really lovely there. To rethink where that crescendo diminuendo is, I think you're going to have to kind of live with that a little bit. And then to think about that crescendo without getting faster. I think that'll make it all way more effective. Okay, we're almost there. Now, right here on this plus long, I felt like the chord was too rolled, and I lost the rhythmic yum, bum, yum, bum. It felt almost like it kind of bled through the bar. Okay, so right on that. One, and I think it can have more substance. Most important, I want to hear that, not that loud, but I think that's nice. Good. Nice. And I didn't hear the articulations nicely on that one. Maybe more, yeah. You know, I guess it's not the spread that I objected to, it was the lack of focus of it. You know, it can be spread as long as it still lands on the and you hear the da-dum, you know, that's the important part. More on the first note, fa, sol. Good, I like that. Okay, good. Now, before you go back to this tempo, you're going right through that lift. Okay, you're just blasting right through it. So let's go from here, and we'll observe the lift. Couldn't be better. Excellent. Okay, now I marked this tempo here. This needs to be quicker. Okay. It's too slow there. Okay, so this needs to clear a little bit better. We backed up. She backed up just a little bit, so the spot where I asked her to do the tempo is coming up. But let's clear this chord a little better. That, the melody here, look at this. It actually goes fa, mi, fa, re, do. That's not a melodic chord.
Oh, yeah.
So it shouldn't feel re, si, do. It shouldn't feel that way. Let's see if we can fix this. And two, and one, and I think that's great. Yeah, because you know it says lentement, so you have whatever you need with the tempo. So that chord then didn't feel at all like it distracted. Yeah. You know, it's something that we're going to hear in the Ravel as well, is that Ravel writes his piano parts like he's writing for an orchestra, because many times he orchestrates his piano music into orchestra pieces. And so there are many different lines running through. And it's going to be a little easier for us to tell when you hear a trio playing, because there's two single lines and an accompaniment line. But it's very important always to be watching for the lines, and especially if you're on your own here. And we have lots to worry about, and we can get kind of lost in the lines somehow. So I think that's very effective. Do it again. Not important. Line. And two, now tight. But don't be in a hurry. One and two. Chord, one and two. Chord. Now, tempo. Perfect. So you don't have to do it for long, but you need to go right back to tempo. It says tempo primo. It's a remembrance. It's the last remembrance of the original melody that we're coming back to here. It's like a say goodbye to the melody, and you want to just make sure that you do that. Okay, one more time. Just that little ending. Yeah, let's do the whole lentement. It's so pretty. that the out of tune one? I think that's what's bothering me. It's flat. Yeah. That's the new string. Okay, so maybe just a little lighter. Try that. Perfect. You hurried. Don't hurry, because you're thinking about getting to that chord. You can articulate better. Perfect. Two-rolled. It has to still feel like a chord. I think that's nice. Yeah, that's really nice. Now do that. Yeah, that's really great. You know, I always feel like I need to channel the composer. I'm the conduit for the composer, right? I mean, an imperfect conduit, but I do my best. But you know, the composer needs us. These notes don't make any sound without us. And as the conduit, I feel responsible to the composer, but I am me, so it's going to be colored by me. You know, I can't help it. It's coming through me. But my first thing is always, what is Tournier thinking about? What is he trying to do there? And I often will think, you know, they have the ability to write whatever they want. So in this particular case, it's a chord. It's written as a chord, and it has a roll sign by it. So we have to decide how much roll. That's what we were just discussing right here. If he had wanted it to be an arpeggio, he had the ability to write it as an arpeggio. So that kind of goes through my mind. I think rolled but chord. So there's a limit to how much I want to roll it, okay? Because it's a chord, and he didn't write it as an arpeggio. So that's what I'm thinking. That's my fealty to the actual written page there. I'm thinking, what is he meaning there? How can I make it mine, make it beautiful, but still it's, you know, he did write it. So it's important for me to feel all of those different kinds of things. So that's what I'm thinking about when you do that. So do that one more time. Perfect. Isn't that beautiful? Yeah. Great job. Okay, quick stage change, and we'll bring the trio out. So I think I'm going to say a few words about the piece and then we'll go movement by movement. It's a 3-movement piece, but I think if you know a few things about it, it might be even more interesting when you're listening to it. The first thing to know that we've already talked about is that it was written for the piano. And then there's a very famous transcription of it by Salcedo for flute, cello, and harp. But the version that Salcedo did is very heavily weighted to the harp. The harp has just about all of the writing, and then the flute and the cello kind of just hold or play simple melody lines. And it's not as interesting for them, and it's not quite as interesting as chamber music. The other thing about it is that since it's written for the piano, it tends to be very chromatic, it is very chromatic. And if you dump all of that in the harp part, there's one, I actually counted today, I have the Salcedo version, there's one 7-bar section that has 37 pedal changes. And the tempo is 160 for a quarter note. So I mean, it's just like 37 pedal changes we're talking probably 7 seconds. You know, I personally as a harpist don't think of pedal changes as being very artistic. I mean, we have to move the pedals. There's no question about it. But if you miss a pedal, things happen. As far as I'm concerned, having to move 37 pedal changes in 7 seconds has more to do with your relationship with God and how than it does with how many times you've practiced it, because honestly, anything can go wrong. And honestly, I don't trust that relationship so much that I want to do that. So someone else, and over the years I've just thought, God, someone needs to fix this. This is such a great piece. It needs to be fixed. I don't mean to say that there's anything wrong with the salzato version, but I like, as a chamber musician, to feel like there's a little bit more interplay between the instruments, and I don't like 37 pedal changes in 7 seconds, as we've already established. So harpist in London, Sky Lakonga, actually made this particular arrangement, and I've just recently come across it. And it dumps a lot more of the activity in the viola part. So the violist is a lot more active, but they both are. And the harp part, while still chromatic and still very difficult, as you'll see, is definitely part of the group rather than just like the one who's doing all the work. So I'm very partial, and then it was also changed to be viola instead of cello, which is a very common combination for the harp. Debussy Trio we've heard here, and many different pieces have been written for that combination. It's a lovely combination. So it makes it a little bit more part of the standard repertoire, which is really nice. Now, Ravel actually wrote the first movement for a competition. And in the competition, it was supposed to be a movement of 75 measures. So he submitted this piece, and even though he was the only entrant in the competition, they didn't award him the prize because it was 78 measures. So nobody got the prize, but Ravel wrote this wonderful movement. And then later, this was in 1903, and then over the next 2 years, he added 2 more movements to it, the other 2 movements. Now, I was listening to several versions of the piano sonata, the sonatina performances on YouTube, and I stumbled across Ravel playing the first 2 movements. It still just blows me away what you can find on the internet, and I wasn't even looking hard. I mean, there it was. There's Ravel playing his own piece. But I was puzzled by the fact that it was only the first 2 movements, and it turns out that the 3rd movement is so much harder that he didn't play that one in public. The other thing that's interesting about it, I listened to 4 different versions, and his was my least favorite. Isn't that funny? The composers are not always the best advocates for their own pieces. I found others that I liked that were, just seemed so much more refined. So that was an interesting thing, but to actually get to hear him play his own music, it's just amazing what's out there. All right, so let's play the first movement. Excuse me. And we'll go movement by movement. So isn't that beautiful how it works so nicely for this combination of instruments? So since the last time I worked with them last week, and since the last time I worked with them, I haven't actually played this piece for reasons we've already discussed, which is interesting to me to coach a piece that I haven't played, because actually I'm a little bit more objective, because sometimes when I've played it myself, I'm so tuned in to how hard it is for the harp that I'm very prejudiced about it, and I'm really geared to making it work for the harp. So now Caroline's on her own. They're equal members of the ensemble. But I really wanted to get a feel, which is something that I would do if I were playing it myself, is that I always like to go back to the original source. So as I mentioned, that I listened to these multiple recordings of the piece. What I really learned and was most interested in is how much liberty that they took, both with dynamics and with phrasing. And so I think that that's kind of part and parcel of playing Impressionist music, that I think that we can take and exaggerate. So we're going to do a bit of that today. We're going to do a little bit more exaggeration of things. First thing in general comment is anytime there's a lift, and it's mostly you, anytime there's a lift, make more of it. So more lift. And they actually, you guys are doing it really nicely. All the pianists added a lift at the end of the first phrase, which you guys are doing. But know that that's done. Don't feel any compunction about doing it, because they were very, they all did it. Now, I'm sitting over here, and it might be that my dynamics are off, but all I can do is tell you what I heard, and it seems loud at the start. So I want us to experiment with being able to play softer. I want us to really experiment with how soft we can hear. We have a wonderful audience. They can tell us if it's too soft. Since I'm standing next to you, I'm not as good a judge. But let's see. Let's start at the beginning, and let's see if we can start with a real piano sound, okay? Okay, excellent. So I thought, is that okay at the beginning? I think it seems piano, right? And then when you start the second phrase and you did it softer, and I thought that was lovely. Now, we don't get to forte, though, until 2 bars before number 1. And I felt like as soon as we started a crescendo, we were already there. Okay? And it didn't have the room to grow. And it's hard because we do have a mezzo forte dynamic, but I think we need to hold that. And it starts in bar 6, but it goes all the way through there, and the crescendo really isn't except for 1 bar. So I'd like it to feel like it's expansive, but that it's not so, it doesn't crescendo until it says to. So let's try that one more time. The other thing, let me just say about this, I think, can you do it a little quicker? Yeah. Let's do it just a hair quicker. Right there, it feels like it's too loud. Right there. So you've kind of soared a little, but that's fine. But right there, on that C sharp, readjust yourself a little bit to go back to it, okay? That was great. You're a little ahead of them on the lift. Be careful, okay. All right? Top one more time. I think that dynamic is spectacular. I thought that was fabulous. Beautiful job, really beautiful. Now, you need to lead this retard, okay? And I think you can exaggerate this retard. So the other thing that I heard when I listened to these different recordings is that the minute you're not playing that 16th note business that we just played right there, even though it says odd tempo, it never is that tempo again. That's why I kind of wanted to play those 16ths faster, because actually the tempo at 1 is, in every recording that I heard, is just a bit more relaxed. So it felt to me like every time the 16ths come in, it does that sort of flurry, and all the other times, it's a little bit more poetic and a little bit more relaxed. So I want you to lead us to that tempo, because we're coming to, at number 1, we're coming to this odd, it says odd tempo, but we're going to do a slightly more relaxed version of that tempo, okay? So let's do, we have to back up to bar 8, if that's okay. Perfect. Go on. Okay. There, good. Okay, good. That was lovely. Now, that's your solo. It has 2 parts to it, and I'd like the second part to feel somewhat different than the first part, if possible. It feels like it's a little bit the same. So let's just do it. It's go to town. It's your solo, okay? Spotlight on the viola.
At 1?
Yeah, right at 1. That was fantastic. Just beautiful. All right, great. Now we're going to take, we're going to have that little lift. Now, this section is really slow, okay? So it says un peu retenu, but let's really, very much slower, and everybody has 3 Ps, okay? So let's do it right from un peu retenu, 3 Ps and slower. Beautiful dynamic, a little bit faster. That felt like it really just. Now stay in tempo. 1 and 2. And 2. Great. Now do that without getting louder.
Yeah.
Okay. I love the return to the tempo through those bars. I think that's beautiful. But let's not. Yeah. Okay. Right on that. Yeah. plan this. This is beautiful, you guys. So you see what I mean? How once you get to those 16th notes, you really want to make that. That's a color. That's a distinct section when that happens there. So this thing here is very clearly marked. In the flute has the solo in its pianissimo, which you did beautifully. Then the viola has the solo and its piano. So one little step more. And then the next section is mezzo forte, and that's where the accelerando comes in. So, and then I think, as we look forward just a little bit, I felt that the anime could move more quickly. Okay, it didn't feel like it moved ahead enough. So let's do this section. Flute
So
solo.
you want us to also keep moving after that?
I do.
Okay.
I think. Perhaps I told you something different last time.
No,
but
you didn't. We just didn't know if this was like the new tempo.
I think let's just go ahead and make it have more energy.
Okay.
I think so. Let's experiment anyway. Let's see if we like that.
2?
No, it's 2. Yes, it was covered. Yes, 2. Sorry to interrupt. I want to hear.
Okay.
So you need to be a little softer, but with that ictus that we've talked about, okay? Because you're doubling him, but we're all 3 Ps, 2 Ps. More. Now, mezzo, forte. Don't hurry yet. 1. Keep going. Great, perfect. So let's decide that when we reach forte passionata, whatever, we're going to stay at, that's our tempo. We've arrived. Then we're not going to push through that because we have 2 bars of that and we come to a retard. So we don't want to be running out of room for our retard. So that's our landing point there. I thought that was really nice, you guys. You mind doing it again? That's your punishment for playing nicely. You have to play it again for me. Now, tempo. Good. Now let's do more lift there. Let that one be a lift there. Okay, so that was great. I need for you to control it better here. You were ahead of, he was holding it and you were just a little ahead of him, yeah. So watch out for that. But that's, it's really hard to make these instant changes. They're doing such a great job, but certain things can be worked out between them and when you practice and also. That's a spot to just think about that. All right, so let's do tempo. Actually, let's just do it at the tempo and then we'll take the lift. Great. I was gonna tell you to play slower there than you did last time, and you did it automatically. And I thought you did the rallentando leading into it perfectly, and I thought you did the lift beautifully. So you did everything that I'd marked down for next time. You already incorporated it for all the things we've been talking about. Really, really talented, very good group, isn't it? Okay, so now let's go right from the un peu retenue here. And this I had marked that it should be 3 Ps, okay? Perhaps slower. Ya da dum, ya da, ya da. Now really rolled. Great. So those little notes that you have, in between Caroline's chords, I'm wondering, sur la touche means airy, pretty much, doesn't it? Or is that the effect of it? Yeah. Because I'm thinking it needs to be airier. Is it possible, Anthony, for you to kind of be airier in your sound? Yeah. Let me hear it. Let's just play those notes. And you know what? I'm also thinking maybe they should just be. It's even the first one. Let's make them a quarter instead of a dotted quarter. Let's make them quarters so that they're shorter. Okay. I think part of it is that we're trying to sustain too long. Without you, just a second, I want to hear the quality of sound. Yeah, it's pretty nice. Okay, now you add it.
I could take it too.
That's perfect. That's really great. Really, really great. Okay, let's go on to the second movement. Okay, wow. So this one, I think, is definitely a dance. And we had talked, we had some discussion last week about the tempo of it, and there was a tempo, again, from Salzay that was quite fast, and they were thinking that it was almost like it won, and it's definitely should be, it's marked as a minuet, so it's a dance in 3. But I do think we can be a hair quicker. I think we've gotten a little bit slow. So it's sounding a little bit too this. So we really want to, yum, bum, ya, da, da, yum, bum, 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 bum. Kind of more that kind of feel to it. This is really kind of a nice flute solo movement, isn't it? So the thing, though, is that I want you to think about, on some of these solos, of making them different, okay? So, for example, the first time that you come in with the solo, and it's going to be easier because it's going to be a little quicker, and I think that's going to help you with some of the phrasing and all. But the first time it's piano, and the next time it's mezzo piano.
Oh.
So that would be the...
I don't have that.
You don't have piano at the beginning?
I do.
Okay, but the second, what I'm talking about, the
second time.
the second time is at 4.
Mm-hmm.
It's not, what, you don't have a dynamic there?
Now I do.
Now you do.
I thought you meant this.
Oh, yeah, no.
Oh, okay.
Okay, yeah, 4 is the same thing, but it's mezzo piano that time. Okay, good. There was also a note that bugged me, but I'll deal with that. We found a couple of misprints in this thing, so. Okay, so let's do that opening phrase, and let's settle in on our tempo just a little bit. That's great. That's just perfect. Absolutely beautiful. Yeah, lovely tempo. Now, Emily, when you come in there, I am losing the pizzas, and maybe if I hear it from here, but I don't know. We have to find some way for those pizzas to project better. Okay, because they're just getting swallowed up in the harp sound. Okay, let me just hear the two of you right on that spot right there where we stopped. Oh, I lost it. So I started out by hearing, but when it got higher, can we try it again? Beautiful. It's such a lovely effect. It would be too bad to lose it. Okay, now let's add the flute. So that same spot. Beautiful. So 2 accents that I would love. Could you accent that last note, the next to the last note? Dee-da-dum. Just a little bit more on that accent. And then you didn't get an accent, but it's the last note of your pits, and they both have accents. Do you think that would make, you could just, because that one does tend to get,
that makes more sense.
Yeah, let's put an accent on that one.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, so you can just kind of like bring it out. Excellent. Let's do that whole section one more time. Yes. Okay, so can you be softer there, Anthony?
Yeah.
Okay, let's just mark that as a little softer, right on that spot. Very gentle there. I think that, yeah, let's just do right on 1, just a little softer. Good. So let's take a liberty here. And you lead it, but take a little retard there and a lift, and then we'll start again. Okay? Beautiful. Let's do one. Lead it. Beautiful. Now tempo. Okay, now, whoops. So this is, you know what, Caroline? This is missing in your part. You should be pianissimo right there.
Pianissimo, okay.
Yeah, let's put that in because they both drop down and you're too loud. Yeah, let's do that. Let's do before 2. Is that? 4 bars before 2? Yeah, 4 bars. Now come back down. Lift. Good. Okay, great. Beautiful. So that was after 2, 1, 2, 3, the 4th bar after 2, to come back down to pianissimo, that was beautiful. Now, maybe this time we should crescendo to the forte. I think I was telling you to play softer, and I think you were listening to me, and I think we need to crescendo there. So let's go ahead and do that, but it's really effective if we've dropped like that, back to the pianissimo. Okay? One more time, 4 bars before 2, and then we'll crescendo to the forte. So they're playing pianissimo beautifully, but you're mezzo piano. So I would like you to actually give them a little support because they're really high and need a bottom. So let's be color underneath that. Okay, right at 3. Start getting quicker. And now, and 1 and 2, now tempo 1, that's it. Yeah, so do that without me. That's good. So that repiné, it says at that point we've got a 4-bar section there where it repeats this sequence and it then brings it back to tempo. And I felt like it was a little stagnant there, so we're going to right away start to bring it back to the tempo, okay? Already it should be faster. I want you to start faster. 2, 1 and 2, 1, 2, 1 and 2, 1. Perfect. Okay, so we got faster than the tempo, but I think now that's because we've kind of changed the tempo. So our tempo here is going to be that slightly quicker tempo. Yeah, okay. All right, let's try one more time the rep. And then but I don't want you to be louder.
Okay.
Okay, do it without getting louder. Good. So I'm going to have you guys work that out because that's just, it's a little bit, yeah. So you need to know what that tempo is going to be and get there. Yeah, you have to pull it kind of out of the air. Good. Let's do that number we just stopped, 5. And this can be slower, okay? Right on 5. Okay, I'm going to interrupt for a second. So I have that these are pizzas.
That's like weird to do.
That's really weird? Oh, because you have to hold it?
Top, and then
It
wouldn't come out.
It wouldn't come out. Okay. What do I know? I play the harp. Okay. Everything we play is pizzicato. Okay, let's do it at 5. Good. So, Anthony, can you grade that retard a little bit more? The rallentando, I mean. Okay. So let's do that whole thing one more time. You have a wrong note in bar, but I'm gonna check this. 84. It's not right. It's not supposed to go back up to that G sharp. I'm sure of it, but I'll fix it. I'll look it up. Okay. Same thing from 5. And 2. Then muffle. Great. That was beautiful. Go ahead. Now, not fast here. Very, very très long. Great. That's beautiful. Really nice. Yeah, all the recordings that I listened to, that was slow like that in the très long second. Really slow. All of them. Great. Okay, hang on to your hats. Third movement that Ravel couldn't even play himself. feel bad saying anything, to tell you the truth. But that won't stop me. I think, and you know, you guys, it's grown so much in a week too. Just spectacular, really. I think that the tempos are really great. The only things are a couple of transitions that I think we can do something with, and just a couple of spots where I'm going to nag you about playing softer. And other than that, I think it's pretty darn amazing. Yeah. What I was thinking when I was listening to some of the recordings is, you know, to really have to bring out the lines. But I think they're doing such a great job of that. It really seems like instinctively or on purposely, they're really knowing who's got it, the line, and that line's coming out. I thought really nicely. I really was very impressed with how you guys really did that. That's great. Okay, so the first thing that I marked was starting in, where is this? What is that, 24, 25, 26. And that's the first time I'm going to nag you a little bit, Anthony, about starting softer. You're doing a beautiful build up, but it needs to start softer and come back down. So let's, where should we start, Caroline? 1, is that a good idea? Or?
We can start at 1, or we can start right on it.
Okay,
Or we
let's
can do 2 before.
Okay, let's do 2 before.
24.
Great. I thought that was really beautiful. I loved that. I thought the contrast of that, and you weren't doing it at first, and then you adjusted to him. Yeah. So that was just right now. That was really good that you did that. Okay, then let's see. The next spot is number 7, and that's a spot that. I think, Anthony, you can be softer. You're pianissimo and Caroline's piano. So let's see if we can do that. So let's jump to number 7. Good. That's perfect. So your piano, but I would make sure it's not here, just a little bit in the, and maybe think about matching him, but with the single notes. That's a line thing. Again, the important thing is the single notes. But he's still melodic. You have a secondary line, even though he's pianissimo and piano. But let it not come up there. Okay, same spot. Now, sorry. So you have to sneak in better.
Okay.
Okay, because it's drawing attention to yourself there, and I don't want you to. Okay. I mean, you're just adding to them. Okay, so sneak in, all right? It's just everybody's playing the same melody, and I don't want it to feel like you've been added, okay? All right? Let's do it at 7 one more time. So you know what? Save it, because then you do become the solo. They drop out. Okay. So it still felt a little bit much when you came in, but here you can bring it out. Okay. All right, let's try that. So, I mean, just air of the one hair of the bow when you come in. Excellent, that's beautiful. Now you get the line here. Okay. You bring this out. Okay, that was spectacular. I love the way you came in there. Okay, so let's start where the viola comes in and then pass the line to Caroline. And Caroline, she's going to finish it off, okay? bars are kind of a mess, so let's fix that just a little bit. So can you bring out the da-dum? It says mezzo piano, but it also says marcato, and every, ba-dum, those colors, I think you can bring those out. Okay, so I think the key to this is to leave it in your capable hands, Emily, here.
Yeah.
To go from the 16ths to the triplets, and everybody's going to follow you. So you need to kind of lead that.
Okay.
All right? So let's try it again with Caroline playing out those things. Do you want to do here, or do you want to do here?
I can start here.
Okay, 113. Okay, she did it great. You just need to play with her better. Okay, so let's just do. Well, that's where we're going to rehearse it. Those two bars. Let's do viola and harp by themselves. Those two bars there. Just those two. One. I can't see that number. 16,
Yeah.
17, 118. Okay. Just that bar. Just do those triplets together. Oh, that was great. Beautiful. That was great. Okay, now the two bars. Great. So, and you're bringing it out. I mean, you know to bring, she's having trouble hearing you, so that's another good reason to bring it out. Okay, that was great. Moving right along, the next thing I wanted to talk about was a little lift before, what's that number say? 10. 10. Getting old, I tell you. So let's do, is that a good spot?
Yes.
Okay, you tell them where it is.
That is measure 138, right?
2, 3, 4, 5, 135.
Oh, this, okay.
135. Now this dynamic, Emily, I need you to be softer right here. So let's go on right from this spot. It's your solo, but it'll come through without you having to force. Yeah. My suggestion on this, the next to the last note is it feels soon. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. The quarter note triplet, the second note seems early to me. Okay? So if you can, and since it's within the retard as well, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1. It'll be more organic in the retard as well. Okay? Good. Let's do the same thing. And then again, because this is your solo and it kind of repeats a couple of times to feel more like a soloist here. Okay? Without the volume, but with the color. Okay? Plus long. What I'd like us to do is we're going to go from here to the end. And the only other thing that I want to do, and we talked a little bit about that this week, this section goes back and forth. It's written in, it stays in 3, well, after it hits 5, but when it goes back to the, as it rushes to the end, but he groups them in 2. So it's really easy to feel this as 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, but it's written in 3. So it's 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Now you don't have to make a big deal about it, but you can't get sucked into the 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. If he wanted it in 2, he would have written it in 2. He wrote it to be a hemiola. He wrote it to be that rub against the 3. It's a group of 2 in 3. So it just felt like you got sucked into the 2s. All right? So just a reminder, you're in 3. Don't do dot dot dee dot dee dot dee dot dee dot dee dot dee. You know, that works so much. You know, if it's just a thinking thing. Okay? So we're going to take it to the end. Huh?
Should
Yeah, I think 11's great. Just play 11 to the end, give us a thrill, and then we'll be done. Thank you guys very much. We'll take a few minutes. There's usually questions. Does anybody have questions? We'd be happy, Caroline and I would be happy to answer. Any questions today? All right. Oh, yes. No, normally not. I mean, we can, but we prefer not to because we use 8 fingers and pianists have 10. So and we have to move pedals with our feet instead of black keys. We can, but it's sometimes successful, sometimes not. So this piano piece got divided up into 3 other instruments, and we're still, as you notice, really busy. Yes?
You mentioned the chromatic and the pedal part. Do they play the same music, or is music written for one or the other?
Well, you can play the same music, but essentially a chromatic harp can play more chromatic music than a pedal harp can. So there were composers that wrote for chromatic harp with that in mind, and then the double action pedal harp, it was a different kind of feel about it. So I would say think of them as separate instruments with overlap. Yes?
What is the functioning of the pedal?
So Caroline, you want to take that?
So each string has 2 discs on them, and each disc will tighten the string half a step. So the pedals tighten these discs. So in essence, it gives us sharps and flats. This is basically like the white keys of the piano, and the pedals enable us to play black keys.
So there are 7 pedals and 3 levels for each pedal, flat, natural, and sharp. So if you have any experience with playing the piano, every time you leave to move from a white key to a black key, we have to move a foot, okay? Only 2, get that? You have 10 fingers to play black keys, we only have 2 feet, so we're busy, and we can't see them, right? Because they're down there. So, but that's what it is. The pedals are like the black keys, the strings are like the white keys. Yes?
Do harpists get calluses on their fingers?
Yes, yes. I always joke that I don't need oven mitts. But luckily, some people callus and you can really see them. Mine are just kind of deep. Yours too, I bet, huh?
Not this year.
Not this year. But you know, the thing is, if we're not careful, it's very easy to blister. So we want to make sure that we're smart about keeping our calluses up. But yes, we callus, no question about it. Yes?
How long have they been working on this? I mean, this is like the 6th week that they've had to get together. How long have they?
2 weeks. Isn't that amazing? Right? 2 weeks. Incredible. Caroline was assigned a piece and that she played at the last Masterclass. Was that week 3?
Yes.
Yeah. And she wanted another chamber piece, so we talked about this. She got her own group together, and I coached them just once, and they did that. So that was really quite an accomplishment. Really, yeah. An amazing accomplishment. Yes?
You mentioned the string had broken. Is it difficult to change the string?
No.
Where is it attached at the bottom?
I stick it, so, well, I can't show you.
So the sounding board has openings, so it comes
Yeah, there's
through
holes.
this, yeah, inside
And
the
I
sounding
have an
board.
anchor, and I tie a knot, and then I thread it through, and so it's anchored underneath here, and then it's just comes out through that hole.
We carry at least a full set of strings with us because the strings really, I mean, it's very important that we're very vigilant. In fact, Caroline saw that the string was nicked, and she asked me if she should replace it or she should just keep her fingers crossed. And we decided to replace it. The problem with replacing it is it takes time for it to stretch out and stay in tune. So she's had to sit on it and make sure it stayed in tune. But I didn't think it would be very fun to have it break while she was performing any of this. So we went ahead and exercised the option of doing that. But you can do it pretty fast. I mean, there have been times, I can tell you that at the opera, for example, I saw the lights were coming down and my string broke. So I motioned to the backstage person, and by the time, I just immediately changed the string, got it going, and they hardly had to wait. So we just have to be really fast about doing it. But we're pretty experienced at it, so it's pretty quick. But that's really not the way you want to start the night. You watch the lights come down, bing! Yes? Well, the harp is not, the piano, first of all, almost all of our strings are made out of gut. So they're very changeable. And it's not metal framed, the harp itself, and we touch them. So, our sweaty little fingers, or whether you sweat or not, there's moisture and things like that. So very, very changeable. Very changeable to humidity, very changeable to change in light. We have to be very smart about how we tune. Because if you tune or let's just say, for example, you bring a harp from a cold place into a hot room with lights, it's going to kind of freak out, and you have to let it become one with the room, so that it doesn't, so that you're not tuning against yourself, really. So a lot of considerations with it because of the fact that we touch the strings directly, and because of the fact that there's no metal framing. The piano was the structure of the piano was a lot more solid that way.
Do you move harps around, or do you play harps at our certain places and you go to them?
No, we always have our own harps, so we do have to move them. Yeah, we do have to move them. I can say that I do a fair amount of motion picture studio work, and I'm not allowed actually onto the lot with a vehicle. So I have a guy who keeps one of my harps and moves it to when I have a movie call. He takes one of my harps, he keeps it all the time, and he takes it because, especially after 9/11, there's so much security that we're not actually allowed to drive onto the lot. And so someone else does that, my guy. I love saying that. Yeah. But I have several harps, so I try to leave them in places. So I leave one full time at the opera. It's easier on me, it's easier on the harp. It stays in tune better since it lives there. So, it's important to have, if you're lucky, you can have several, so that, like, my guy keeps one, the opera keeps one, I have several around, so that I'm getting old, I don't have to move them that much. But they're actually not that hard to move. We have wonderful carts, and we don't actually have to pick them up and carry them. We put them on a cart, we strap them into a cart, and they're not that heavy. A concert grand harp weighs around 80 pounds. I mean, I don't want to dead pick up a harp like that, but they look like they're going to weigh a lot more than that. So what you learn is how to balance, how to lay it down and to push. And so we've got tricks. We're very tricky. Yeah. And some of us have good dads. My dad stopped moving harps when I was 10. He said, "You're on your own, kid." Caroline's dad's a much better guy.
When did Caroline start playing?
When I was 7 years old.
Me too. 7. Yep. Yes.
I'll ask the inevitable question, how good was Harpo Boss?
Actually, quite good. He actually did play. There used to be a lot of controversy about that, and people insisted that there was this or that. I've watched those movies. I'm pretty hard to fool. He's playing. He really is playing. There's an I Love Lucy episode that I just love to watch, where he's Harpo and Lucy are doing, I don't know if any of you remember this, you should try and find it. The Mirror. Well, yeah, when they do this thing, and then he sits down and he plays Take Me Out to the Ball Game. Oh my God, it's so great. And there is no way he's not playing. I mean, you can't fake me out. There's just no way. So he studied with a very famous harpist in New York, Mildred Dilling, and she was in New York, and they moved out when they were making their movies out to California, so he would call her late at night, and they would have lessons over the phone. But the funny story about Harpo was when he first started to play, he actually saw a harp on a picture and it was reversed, so he started to play with the harp on the wrong shoulder. So he came to Mildred and she says, "What are you doing?" So that was his first big change, was have to move to the correct shoulder.
What is ictus? We use the term ictus.
Ictus. Oh, what's an ictus? Okay. What is an ictus? What was the
Well,
reference that I was
because
in?
when you wanted me to be more clear, when we put the tabla, like the ictus is more clear.
Okay, so I'm going to say that it's the actual point that you make contact with the string. It's sort of like articulation. So we want it to project. And singers do that when they sing with t's. You don't hear them do it, but if you say it and right? You add the syllable at the end. It's the same thing. It has to do with articulation, but it's where you actually first hit the string is the ictus of the sound. Yes?
Is there a recording of the three instruments that were played today that you would suggest to us if we like the melody?
I don't actually know that this has been recorded, to tell you the truth. I didn't look for it. But the person, she probably has, the person who made this arrangement is an English harpist named Skyla Kanga with a K. And I would recommend searching for that, because she's the one who made the arrangement and she was commissioned to do it for a trio that she plays. So there are other pieces that are for this combination, but that piece I would suggest looking at that. Yep.
What are some of the films you have been involved with?
Which ones hasn't she?
No, don't say that. That's not true. Because then they'll say a name and I'll have to say, no, not that one. Well, this summer I played on Ghostbusters. I played on Steven Spielberg's BFG, Big Friendly Giant. And I also played on Independence Day. Right now we're working on the new Disney animated feature called Moana that's coming out probably Thanksgiving, big thing at Thanksgiving. I've played all the Toy Story movies. I record for Randy Newman, John Williams. And I can't forget to say, I always forget this, Star Wars. I played in Star Wars. A wide variety of different things. All right, one more question anymore, or we'll call it a day. Thank you very much, everybody. God, boy, you're just playing.